I'm a risk taker, and I've always been a risk taker. I don't ever want to leave anything on the table. Failure to me it's a necessary part of life. If you are not surrounded by people who want to get ahead and be successful, you're not going to get ahead and be successful. You've got to put yourself with people who are trying to do the same thing you're trying to do.
Welcome to another episode of the Canadian Dream Podcast. Today I'm sitting with Trisha Isabey, the owner of probably the most successful interior design company in British Columbia. Hi, Trisha.
Hi, Elton. How are you?
Excellent.
Good.
How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
Thank you for making the time to stop by our studio here in Vancouver.
My pleasure.
Were you born in Kelowna?
No, I was born in a little place called Peace River, Alberta.
Oh, you know,
My dad was a banker, and we moved all over BC, and we ended up in Kelowna when I was 12.
Where do you think you discovered the businesswoman in you?
I'm my dad's only child, and I was his son. So he never treated me like a daughter. He kind of mentored me like a son. And always, I remember we had father-son events that were going on in the community, and he would phone up and say, I'm taking my daughter. And I would be the only girl there. And I show up at the father-son event, and he always was proud to have me there along with him. And he was a businessman. He was a banker at the time. And he always used to say to me, whatever you want to do for yourself. Don't wait for anyone to do it for you. And so that was kind of where the beginnings are all hatched.
You said he mentored you. Your dad mentored you?
Yeah. I think his approach with me, both of my parents' approach with me was similar in that they would always give me their viewpoint and allow me to make my own decision. And what I appreciated about that was I'm a type A person. I don't think if you would have told me what to do, I would have listened anyways. But it allowed me to take the time to factor in what they said, what I wanted, and to make a decision for myself. I almost always did what they said.
What kind of student were you?
I was a really strong student until I found boys. Then I was a very bad student.
Really?
Grade 10, the wheels fell off.
Did you go through that phase when you think that school is useless and you should just have your own business?
No, I did. I did not attend university, though. I got out of school and I got married very young and then subsequently divorced. But the fellow that I married was not pro-university, didn't want me going to university. And I was too young to be, I'll say this, I didn't have the strength I have now at that age. Mm-hmm. I didn't realize that that was shaping my life. And yet I'm so lucky in what I fell into that I still was able to pull together a great career, a couple of careers without university.
How old were you when you got married?
First time, 20.
Oh, first time?
Yeah.
Was there a second time?
There was 3 times, actually. Yeah, I like to do things in multiples. Yeah, I like to make sure I'm good at them or not good at them.
How old were you when you got married, and how many kids do you have?
20, the first time.
Yeah, that's not too.
I feel like I was 28. Just a second. I was 31 the second time, potentially, or 30. And then the third time I was about 35. The third marriage is where I had my 2 kids. I have 2 kids that are 12 and 15.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
And when did you get your first job?
When I was 12, I started working. I've never stopped working.
What did you do?
I started babysitting at 12. Then at 15, went to work for a pharmacy and did a pharmacy. Like I would help the pharmacist with putting the prescriptions together and packing the pill packs. Then went on to like work at a clothing store. And then a dental office. I mean, I did lots of stuff.
And why did you work so early?
Because I didn't get an allowance, and I like to go out and have fun with my friends, and I needed to put gas in my car. My dad was such a hard worker, grew up in a very poor household, and it was really important for him that I had a good work ethic, and I did because I like nice things. So there was no way I was getting nice things without working hard.
Yeah, you do like nice things. You like to stay at Fairmont.
Yes, I do. I like all the wonderful things that cost a whole bunch of money. It's unfortunate, but that's what keeps me driven.
And do you think that's what led you to creating this design company?
I have always had a strong aesthetic. And so fashion was for sure a passion of mine throughout my whole childhood all the way. Still is a huge, huge passion. I contemplated getting into the stylist world, doing fashion styling. But where I live, which is a small, Kelowna is not a big place. It's a mid-sized community and the shopping is not incredible. And I just did not know how with children I would be able to style anybody with what we had in the community. So the next best thing to fashion is honestly interior design. So related, both aesthetic, both has a lot to do with your eye and the ability to balance things. So that was the secondary passion. And I'm happy I went that way.
And was it your first profession? It wasn't, right?
No.
You were a mortgage broker before?
No, a stockbroker.
A stockbroker before. Tell me about it.
I started out in Bank of Montreal working as a bank teller. Again, no university education. And then took my mutual funds course, which was a huge push from the bank at the time. And one of the people that worked at the branch cut an article out of the paper, or like an ad in the paper for a financial planning company, which I did for a year and a half, and then went over to the largest brokerage firm on the street and worked there for the next portion of my career, which I think was 10 or 12 years.
How was it experience working as a stockbroker?
It was life-altering because it was the first time I was exposed to big business. It was very male-dominated. I was a blonde 24-year-old woman, and I loved it. I love being the one that is not that is underestimated. I like walking into a room and I want them to think whatever they think, and then I like to surprise them. So it doesn't bother me all of the I think stereotypes that people thought about me in the beginning. It just propelled me to do and try harder. And I think it was, for me, it was what got me so invested in mentoring women.
And how successful were you at that job?
I did really well at that job. It was a heady experience because I was so young, made lots of money and drove a cute little sports car. And, but I think at the time, you just don't know enough to know that that's not usual. It's not your typical trajectory, no university education, and to be that young making good money was kind of heady is the only way I could describe it.
So if you were 25, 26, making a lot of money, driving your favorite car, etc., what aspirations did you have? What else did you want from life?
Gosh, I don't know that I remember that far back, but let me see what I can think of. I definitely wanted children. I mean, even though that's, for me, it wasn't necessarily I had to have kids. I did want to have kids, but I've always just wanted to have a career I could have fun at. And so for me, building the business that I eventually got into and being in charge allows me to set that culture and that pace within the organization so that it isn't just a job. I mean, I know my staff loves to come to work, and we all love to be together because we hang out on after hours together. So for me, it's I wanted a job that I had fun at, that I could travel for and do like amazing things that were not office-y, boring type activities.
And wasn't the money worth it all?
Money to me has always just been a tool. I love the ability to do things with money, but money is not my driver.
What drives you now?
What drives me now is the enjoyment. Like, it's the activities, it's the things that it allows me to do and the freedoms it gives me. So to be able to come to Vancouver and stay at my favorite hotel, that's what it's about for me. It's not, I need to earn X amount of dollars. I mean, with all the things that we do, money comes out of that. It's a natural thing. That's how our society repays us, is through currency. But at the end of the day, it's time with the people I love. It's the activities I love to do, and that's what it's about for me.
Yeah, it sounds like you don't really appreciate money, but I know that it's not been easy.
No,
it hasn't been an easy journey, and you are such a hardworking person.
Yeah.
Tell me how that transition was from stockbroker to creating your own business.
It was really interesting because when I got into interior design, I knew nothing about their business model, and I didn't know a lot of designers. In fact, I don't think I knew any designers back when I first got involved in the design world. And so I built a business based on the brokerage industry. I literally said, well, this is how they did it. It's a super successful model. Why don't I do the same thing? So I built it based on having specialties and having a team approach, because when you were a broker, when you were putting a portfolio together, you didn't necessarily need to be an expert in oil and gas. You would pick up the phone and ask the oil and gas expert, what stock should I be looking at? This is the type of client I'm dealing with. And that's exactly how I built our team. It was all based on specialties and working in teams, and had a very similar payout structure to the way that I was paid. I find one of the things that I use in almost every contract negotiation or any negotiation with any person I work with is what's in it for me, not me, but for them. Because I know what's in it for me. If I'm asking you, Elton, can you do a podcast for me? I know what my ask is. But then I have to think about, what's your ask? Why would you want to do that for me? Is it financially motivated? Is it that you're going to get a further reach on your audience? always thinking about what the other person wants is how you do a contract. So I started thinking, what would get me out of bed in the morning to work for another human being? Why would I clamor to be successful and make anybody else any money? And that was how I built the whole pay structure.
Who were you most focused on, the end client or your staff or your team?
I mean, in the beginning, it was a little bit of both because I was designing at that point, but now it is fully my staff. My job is to enable my staff to be successful. My job isn't to get them clients. It's to give them the tools they need to be successful. That's my job.
Tell me more about the early stages. What was the main challenge that you faced first? And then what did it evolve to?
I think the main challenge in the beginning was knowing all of the really technical pieces. I have a great eye and great vision. I have no problem. I can put a space together very quickly. I can furnish a space very quickly. I have a brain that just does that. But it's relaying the information to the people who have to do the work that I couldn't do. I'm not a technical person. I'm not a technologist. I don't know how to use AutoCAD or any of those things. That's just not my background. So I started to, I hired my first employee, and Alex, and she's been with me the longest. And she was the one who would come with me to everything. And she would take my brain and put it into what the technical terms were for the builders or for the clients. And so that part was, I think, the most difficult. And I think the other thing is just trying to figure out the industry, because it was, to me, it was built very illogically. Like it didn't make a lot of sense the way that these firms were structured. So I kind of forged my own way through it because I didn't like what I saw.
What didn't you like?
I didn't think that the designers were paid very well. I think that there was a lot of onus on a designer. There's really only a couple lanes they had. They could either start their own company, which meant they were CEO, CFO, COO. They were their marketing person, their HR person. They did all of the invoicing. They were everything. And in doing that, it meant that they had a very large portion of their time dedicated to doing activities they were either not good at or they didn't like to do. So it took away from the time they could bill. So at the end of the day, if they were billing out whatever rate they were billing out, they were losing a huge amount of hours to something that they really weren't skilled to do. Then the other way of being hired as a designer was to work for a firm, which meant you made $25 to $45 an hour, whatever the going rate is in any given community. And when I looked at the number of years that the designers were going to school, I was like, why are you doing that? That's just not enough money for you to be earning. So we developed more of an agency model where the designers who work for me are required to bring on their own clients, and then they bill their clients and they do the design work. That's all they have to do. We have people who do all their billing. We have an HR person, obviously have a talented creative marketing department. We do all of their technical stuff, like if they need any kind of business card or anything like that. We cover all of the things they don't need to do. They just need to get clients and do design. And in doing that, all of their time can be dedicated to billable hours or selling furniture, because we also sell from 200 lines of furniture, which gave them another avenue to earn money. So my whole premise was, when I think about any person in any kind of job, there are certain things that you're really successful or good at. Like for you in your position, obviously you're a very talented interviewer. There are certain things that you do every day that I call it wear a cape for. It's what you're a superhero in. If you can find someone's superhero abilities and let them do that all day long, that's where they make the most money. And that's where they feel the most energized. But you throw me into an accounting meeting, you've lost me for the day. Because by the time I'm done, I can't, all my energy is spent trying to get through that meeting. It makes me tired. It's just not a good use of my time.
All right, so let's rewind a little bit.
Sure.
The first challenge was to understand the industry.
Yes.
What was the next big step for you?
The next big step was to build my team.
And how did you do that?
I almost would have to say it was a magnetic type of an attraction. It became about who we hired. So we had, as I said, Alex was my first hire. And then over the course of time, we had a few other designers that came and went. But then I hired Raquel Milliken, who is a force of nature, huge personality, incredibly good designer. And when she came, the community went, what is she doing over there? That was the first time I know that the community really saw the company. And then it was a landslide. we went from in 2018, 2 of us, to now 43.
Do you think these women actually wanted to follow you because they looked up to you as a female role model?
Yeah, I think that was the premise. I think that they saw what I was doing.
Were you doing something like this on purpose?
You mean which?
Were you trying to show them, hey, I can inspire you, look at me,
No.
I can lead you, I can mentor you? No?
Not on purpose. I think I do it. I've always been that way. I think I've always been...
magnet.
Yeah,
People want
I've
to
always
follow
been a
you.
coach. Even when I was in the brokerage business, my uncle was one of the regional managers with the firm I was at, and he told my dad, Trisha should be she should be a manager. She should be managing staff. And I thought he was insulting me, but I think what he was saying was that I liked to mentor people even back then. I enjoy that. I enjoy helping people.
And at no point you mentioned finances. You didn't say that it was a problem at the beginning or later on.
Oh.
How were you paying for everything at the beginning until
it's
you
a
actually...
huge investment when I first started, because I didn't have, at the time, we have another family business, and I was in the space that we owned. And then I went into a really well-priced lease with a hardwood floor company in the Okanagan. So I didn't take on a lot of expenses in the beginning. I was careful with that. And then over time, as we grew, we had more jobs, we had more ability and finances to keep up, and we just continued to grow our team.
Isn't it a seasonal business?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, I would say starts in construction or either, spring and fall are typical when a contractor will start. So we kind of fit into a cycle in there for sure. But we opened up a furniture store in 2000. So that keeps us busy in some of the other times of the year, like especially in the winter.
Mm-hmm.
So we have various platforms that we work within that kind of are seasonal on their own, but not necessarily overlapping.
And nowadays, do you actually design for any projects, or
It's very hard for me to do that at this point with my time. The odd client I'll let in, but I have to bring another designer on board. I just find myself pulled in too many directions.
When you have the discovery call, how does that go?
My discovery call is based on trying to find the right designer for the right client. I'm not going to ask any questions very few questions about their project. My role isn't to find out how they want their project done. My role is to find them the best designer on my team.
Mm-hmm. And when you think about the reasons why you were able to create such a successful business, it's a competitive industry, isn't it?
Yes, very.
Can you point 2 or 3 reasons why you think you stood out?
I think that one of my biggest, strengths is that I like people. And so I don't mind getting into the community and meeting people. And I don't even consider it networking. I consider it fun. I love it. So I just showed up at everything. And I attended all of the things that I thought it wasn't even about thinking that it was for business, because for me, it was because I liked the people. And so I think people want to deal with people that they like and trust.
Mm-hmm.
So authenticity is really important when you're dealing with somebody in business, because they want to know they can trust you to do the job you say you're going to do. So I would say that the fact that I liked people was a big thing. The second thing, though, is I'm a risk taker, and I've always been a risk taker. I don't ever want to leave anything on the table. I'm comfortable with failure, so I'm a risk taker. Failure to me it's a necessary part of life. And if I fail while trying, who can argue that I did a bad job? It is what it is.
The biggest failure you had?
Oh, God, I did a construction company for 2 years. It was the worst thing I've ever done. Yeah, I will never do that again. It was a great learning moment, one that I would say it's too soon for me to talk about in terms of how good I feel about it, because it still feels kind of bad. But it taught me to stay in my lane.
Yeah.
My lane's design.
What would you say to someone who is just starting now? Okay, going to design school, for example, here in Vancouver, we have Emily Carr. Where else are they?
Oh, you know what? BCIT is one of the best that I know of.
BCIT?
Yeah.
So for those young people mostly, say 18, 19, 20, they have no idea what the future looks like. What tips would you give to them if you could mentor them and say, look, this is the most important lesson, and then these are the second and the third most important lessons?
Number one is, if you're not going to work for a company like mine, where we help you with all the business planning and all of the pieces you need to be successful, then you have to get your head around that piece yourself. So you have to, you can be the best designer in the world, but you might have no clients. If you don't know how to get clients, you are never going to make any money. And I think that the ability to be successful in any industry, in any walk of life, is your ability to attract clients. It's no different than your business. You need to have clients to pay the bills. So I think that the marketing side and learning how to market for yourself and represent yourself is a really important piece. And the second thing is, do not do your job for free. Your hours need to be billed. It takes the entire industry down when you don't bill properly. All of the girls or boys or men or whatever that go to design school have all gone and earned the credentials in a profession. And I find it super interesting. In any retail environment, you're not giving your product away for free. But the moment we go to service, we discount. Oh, I'm going to do this for free, or I'm going to do that for free or I'm going to do it for less because, I don't know, really it feels kind of high. We discount our services, and yet our service is essentially a product. We are a product. All of us are. And there's no reason why we should be discounting what we do. A dentist doesn't discount what they do. A lawyer doesn't discount what they do. So in the arts or the creative side, we tend to feel less worthy. But what we do is a huge service, and it's very difficult for other people to do the same job. So I want people who come out of school to recognize their worth and maintain that ability to not just see themselves as it's no big deal. Because you know how to do something doesn't mean anyone else knows how to do it. It's a skill.
Any third?
A third tip from coming out of school now would be to surround yourself with the right people. Like if you are not surrounded by people who want to get ahead and be successful, you're not going to get ahead and be successful. You've got to put yourself with people who are trying to do the same thing you're trying to do. And that's really the secret of our team, is that it's this huge group of wildly creative but driven people that propel each other to do better.
I loved the first tip. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about that now.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
How do we get clients?
Getting clients there's so many ways to get clients. I think that the best way to get clients is to get out there and meet people. And I find it so funny. I'm very direct when I want business. I've met people and big players in the industry and walked right up to them and introduced myself and said, I want to be your main designer. And it's disarming because most people try to go about it in all these kind of half ways or funny ways or whatever. And I'm very intentional. I want to be your main designer. And I've never had anybody say no. They say, okay, let's talk about it. Because I think that what happens a lot right now is there's so many distractions. People are looking for people to cut to the chase. And the other thing I would say is don't be afraid of the phone. In this generation where everybody texts and emails, if you want to stand out, pick up the phone and phone somebody and talk to, in our industry, it's architects, builders, clients, whichever. So if you want to meet an architect, the best way to meet an architect is phone them or find out where they spend time and be there and introduce yourself. It's about being bold, and it's about putting yourself out there. It's no different than the dating world. You're not going to find somebody without approaching them. So you've got to make sure you get out there and you're seen. You've got to be seen.
Yeah. Are there any mistakes that you see other competitors doing or younger designers, for example, doing that you go, oh, no?
Well, I mean, some of the mistakes that I see happening are taking jobs that are not really what they should be doing. So really spending too much time in areas that are not really where their lane is.
For example?
Like people who, like as a good example, take on, instead of doing a whole house for design, they take on, oh, I'll do your bathroom for you. And it's not really what you're designed to do. I mean, these girls have gone to school. They understand all the mechanics of a house, how a house should look. And they're taking small jobs to fill their time instead of pursuing the right jobs. So I think people get a little bit short term in their thinking and they start to panic and think they need to do whatever they can to earn money instead of staying the course and really diving into building a network so that you're getting the right type of jobs.
From everything you have been saying, it sounds like you're boasting confidence.
Oh, okay, good.
Where does that come from?
Oh, I don't know.
Is it from your life experience, or is it because of how you were raised by your dad?
I think the confidence has come from understanding that in all the situations that I've been in, and I've had lots of failures, that every time I failed, I got back up. I think when you start seeing yourself as a hero in your own story, and you know that you're capable of getting through hard times and you're capable of recovering from a bad situation, you start to not take things so seriously. And in not taking it seriously, you have more faith in yourself. And you recognize, I think over the course of the years, what I've really recognized is that people like me best when I'm just me. If I try to pretend to be somebody else, it doesn't work. I've just got to be me. So I just lead with that. I recognize some people won't like me, and I'm okay with that.
You're okay with that?
Oh yeah.
Have you always been okay?
I think I've always had to be okay with that. We moved a lot as when I was younger, and so I was always the new girl. Some people like you, and some people don't like you. But now I'm really okay with that. I don't have any. I'm not trying to be for everyone.
And that's a good way to get clients, isn't it? Not to be for everyone.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, in my realm now, the clients I'm trying to get are designers. So for them, it's a different kind of marketplace. But for designers, for them to get clients, it's honestly, it's a matter of getting into your community and investing in your community some way. So whether it's through boards or attending networking things or going to your local golf course and being a member there and getting to know the other people, there's lots of ways to get clients.
Were there any moments when you were, despite all this confidence, when you were actually doubting yourself? Like,
always.
I don't really, always?
Always. We all have imposter theory. I sometimes find one of my staff will come ask me a question and I'll be like, why are you asking me? I don't know what I'm doing. And that's the imposter theory that every CEO has. I mean, at some point over time, you end up in a position you're not really entirely sure how it all happened. You know you were there for it, but it's such a blur when you get there that, the imposter theory hits all of us. It's normal.
And where do you find strength in those moments? Or where have you, I'm sure you're now older, way more experienced, way more successful than the Trisha 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah, hopefully.
So where have you been finding strength at different times of your life?
I think a lot of it's been with the right people, as I mentioned, like surrounding yourself with people who have a like-minded vision of life and who support you. That's huge. I think that making sure I have a really strong morning routine. I get up every morning and I meditate and I do my goals and I do my gratitude work and I spend time learning, reading a book each morning. Sets me up for success every day, but I do spend a lot of time on that gratitude and the goals.
And how do you do that?
Actually, I read a book called The 5 a.m. Club by Robin Sharma, and I think it was probably 7 years ago that I read it. The whole method that he has is it's 20 minutes in gratitude, 20 minutes in learning, and 20 minutes in exercise. And I started that 7 years ago, and I actually have a book that I've had for a very long time with my very first list of things that I was grateful for. And then the next page was things I was trying to accomplish. And then I actually have a page in there of things I like about myself. And before my feet hit the ground in the morning, I will read all of that. And that starts me out in a way that is very intentional because it reminds me my inner self-talk has changed by doing that. Because I think about myself differently because I've reminded myself of who I am. But then my radar, because we all have an inner radar, we are all seeking something. But if we aren't intentional about what we're seeking, we could be seeking bad things for ourselves as well. So in having that list of goals, for me, has been such a clear pathway. Sometimes it's so funny, like the Vancouver office, when we opened that up, I don't even know how that happened. I remember saying to Kendra, my chief operating officer, one day, I said, "How did that happen?" She said, "I don't know, but it's been on my list for 3 years." And so those things are constantly firing. Your subconscious is looking for opportunities to fulfill those goals. And the meditating helps to center me. I love that piece that, and I don't do a long one. I do like a 7 to 10 minute one.
How do you do that?
I use the app Calm, and then I have a couple pre-recorded meditations.
So you listen to something?
Yep.
And what are you standing or you walking?
I usually have a coffee and I'm in bed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you do all this and you still haven't got out of bed?
Someone had to either bring me coffee or I did have to get the coffee.
Maybe it's your handsome boyfriend.
It might be, yes.
No.
Sometimes, yes.
Go grab me coffee.
Go get me coffee before I get up.
Okay. So first you read your goals and do your gratitude routine and then the meditation.
Yes, and then I do reading. So I'm constantly reading a book.
In bed?
In bed, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's about 45 minutes.
I want to see your bedroom.
It's 45 minutes to an hour. I have a nice bedroom, but I'm a designer. I at least have a bunch of designers behind me. It better be nice.
It must be the coziest bedroom ever.
Cozy bedroom.
All right. So what do you do next? Did you skip the exercising part?
So the exercise, that's the one that sometimes changes. Usually I'll go for a walk. So I love to do a walk right on the boardwalk in Kelowna, or if I'm in Vancouver and I'm staying at the Fairmont, I love doing the Cole Harbour walk in the morning. So it isn't about your most intense exercise part of your day because you might do a gym routine later. It's just 20 minutes to get your blood flowing. Your cortisol is at its highest in the morning. So if you want a good day, you got to burn off the cortisol. And exercise does that.
One of the most important things are when you talk about surrounding yourself with the right people,
Yes.
you also have to kick a lot of people out of your life.
Yeah.
To maybe raise your shield and do not let them come in.
Yeah.
What are the red flags that you usually spot and, okay, because you are very sociable.
Yeah.
I'm sure you can be nice to all sorts of people.
Yes.
If you have to.
But I'm a target because I've got a lot of energy. And because I'm a mentor, they want you to help them.
Yeah.
And so my dad gave me the absolute best way for me to visualize it. He said, Trisha, some people are ripped bags. Everything you pour into them falls out the other side. He said, run away from those. He said, don't spend your time there. Spend your time, if you're going to be putting a lot of energy into somebody, put energy into people that you're actually making a difference for. Because there's nothing worse than talking about the same problem with somebody 500,000 times. And I have patience, but I'm a doer. And when I'm in a crisis mode or have anything going wrong in my life, I give myself a very short leash of how much time I'm allowed to sit in that negative place. So for me, I don't have the patience for that. So I've learned, because I'm a mentor and I support so many people, that the people that I surround myself with have to support me. So we have to be mutually supportive.
I think you're also touching something that my mentor many years ago taught me, which is do not try to help people who need help. Everybody needs help.
Yeah.
Only try to help people who want help.
Yeah.
And it's so different.
Yeah. And you also have to recognize whether you're valuable there or not. You might not be the right fit for that person. You might not be able to affect any change there.
So one red flag is when you notice that someone needs help but is not going to do anything with your pieces of advice, with your help. Okay. Another thing that you see.
I'm terrible with red flags. I have a whole team who puts the limits in place for me because I do have a very forgiving and positive view of people. I give people more leash probably than they need or deserve. So what we've kind of done is put into place a protocol where I don't make all the decisions of who I help and who we bring on. I have a team that will evaluate some of those opportunities. I could be spread thin very quickly.
And that mentorship role that you have, is that a separate business?
It's been ongoing within my team, but I'm more so wanting to be more involved. I've done a little bit of this already, but in mentoring groups of people, not necessarily individuals, but doing more conferences and larger groups and giving some framework on the things that I've learned.
Male and female, or do you have any preference?
Doesn't matter. I've been fortunate to be working with females, mostly females in my business. But I think that where I would be most effective is with somebody who maybe didn't have somebody who told them that they could be successful. People who didn't have a person.
And you want to be that person?
Yeah.
Was your dad the person who told you could be successful in your
Always, yeah.
Yeah, always. You didn't talk about your mom.
My mom was helpful as well. My mom was a crazy successful businesswoman in her own right. She was a great salesperson and could still be. I mean, she's a force of nature and really strong, funny, outgoing woman. But my dad and I always had that sort of business connection. Not that I didn't. I learned a lot watching her. She blazed trails back in the day when, I mean, she was one of the first female car sales people in our whole area. And she went out and outsold all the men.
So you had these good role models at home. Your dad was maybe your first mentor.
Yeah.
Did you actually have any other physical mentors besides the book authors?
No, I had some very impactful people. I had a branch manager when I was with the brokerage industry who he was, I would say, the one I needed to hear from at that point in my career there. He challenged me. He said, I don't understand why you're not more successful than you are. And I was like, what? I hadn't really thought of that. And he said, you have the ability to be one of the top performing people here. And he said, go back to your office and do that. And I did. Went back and I doubled my business that year. I think that piece is the piece that I learned, is that let people know what they're capable of. You know, it's hard to see yourself as a successful person when you're just starting out. You don't know what traits to look for. But those of us who've been in the business world or a successful world long enough, we know what traits to look for. You can spot them.
Which are they?
I just look for people who care a lot about the companies that they're working for. If you're working for a company and you're acting like an owner, you should go be an owner. That's the reality. If you care that much about the way that you are performing in that company and you really have the heart of somebody who is an owner, you should go be an owner. That's the end of all of it. Like, you have the ability to do it. Find something you're passionate about and go do it.
So that's a good trait for someone who is meant to become a business owner.
Yes.
Now, the positive traits that you look for when you're hiring someone to know that someone is going to be successful, even though they might not be a business owner.
Mm-hmm. I look for people with grit. People who, Peyton, who's here with me, is a great example. I remember when Peyton started with us, she said yes to everything. If we need someone to plan a birthday party, I'll do it. And she, after about 10 of them, I looked at her and I go, no, you won't. How are you going to have time to do all these things? But what I recognized in her was her willingness to do whatever it took to be successful. And I look for people who, they're not looking for necessarily the biggest title or the most prestigious role or any of those things, but they know how to work hard and they engage with people and they have fun at what they do. So you can always tell somebody who's going to be successful because they've got to be able to work with the clients. They've got to know their skill. If you hire somebody as a designer, you expect they know how to design. But what I want to know is, can you work with people?
Yeah.
And how are you going to deal with the tough things that come up? If you can deal with tough things and you can roll with it and you can recover, then you're gonna outlast most.
Yeah. What else do you like to teach your mentees?
I like to teach them how to make money. That's really what I like to teach them. I watch a lot of the activities that happen on our team, and we have a lot of different roles, and some make more money than others. And I'm curious. I'm always very curious about why people choose to spend their time on some things more than other things. And so what I try to teach them is opportunities to increase their bottom line, leveraging their time. So if I have a designer who is highly skilled at getting clients, but is spending all her time doing, busy work like spec documents or mood boards, my first question is, why do you think you need to do that? And a lot of them, it's about the control. I like to do it because I know it's done right. And so what I always try to challenge them is you can spend an upfront amount of time to teach somebody how you would like to do it, how you would like it to be done for you. And then you can go get more clients. And ultimately, what I'm trying to teach them is that not everything requires our specific touch. There are certain things that you do that are you. They are just you, and no one can do them. They're whatever it is, as I said before, that you have a superhero cape for. But the other things that are on your list of things to do, if you can find someone else to do them for you, and you can still maintain your trajectory of bringing on more clients, which means more income, you're better off to do that. So teaching them all about team building and figuring out their strengths is what I love to do.
I love it. Mm-hmm. Are there any roles that you live by? Any quotes? Any books that you...
Yes. I think life is short, do big things, which was a quote from Robin Sharma. That's a huge one to me. I think that, really recognizing we're only here for a short period of time and you've got to make an impact. That's a huge part for me. And the other one is the man in the arena quote, which I'd have to look up to read to you, but is very near and dear to me. And it really is about the fact that unless you're with me on the ground floor of the arena, you may not criticize me because you have no idea what I've been through or what I'm going through. So the only people I take feedback from in the area that I'm in are people who are right there in the arena floor with me.
I like that too. Mm-hmm. The biggest mistake you made in your life. Don't tell me anything about your ex-husbands.
No. It is the biggest mistake I made in my life. I don't really grade my life that way. I have no answer for you. I don't see any of it as mistakes. I see it as that's just the path.
And the best decision you made in your life?
To continue to try, keep getting up.
That's not a decision.
That's a decision. You have to decide every time things go wrong. You have to decide to get up and to keep trying. That's the best thing I've ever done. I just have tenacity and grit. I don't give up.
What's next for you? Your next big Canadian dream?
Well, we're in the process of building our international division right now. So we are designing in Hawaii and starting to get into California and Jackson Hole. So that piece for me is a huge joy because my goal is to be able to go to these places and to be able to make an impact in those communities. And then to start working, as I said, I'd love to be working at various, business leadership summits and conferences, and to be able to give back a little bit some of the things that I've learned.
And soon you're going to start your podcast.
Yes, and soon I'm going to start my podcast. Yeah.
Yes. And write your books.
Yes, I do. I think I would need someone to write it for me. I have a lot of ideas of what I would like to say, and I think some people have to die before I completely start writing.
You want to share with me some of those ideas? What would you like to write about?
I think just the stuff that I've been through. I think my life has been very interesting in terms of the various chapters, but I think it would just be kind of a recollection of some of the things that I've gone through. And I mean, again, ultimately, it's about living your dream, like keeping and pushing and all of those things. But my life is quite entertaining, I think.
Yeah. How can someone get in touch with you?
Best way is probably through our website, which is isabeyinteriors.com, or you can go through Instagram, which is also Isabey Interiors.
And we're going to put all the links here in the description.
Perfect. Awesome.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Trisha.
you, Dalton.
Yeah,
it's a pleasure.
And thank you for listening to this episode, or if you're watching this on YouTube, remember to share, to like, and to subscribe to our channel. I'll see you on the next episode.